Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Muscle Car Appraisal YouTube channel. Thanks for joining us. It's been a while, but we're back stronger than ever. So, first order of business, we'd like to thank
for joining us.
A group of our friends. But we're back. Friends. We are part of a group called Insane Friends. And there's a bunch of members, and they all have their own YouTube channel. And they broadcast live every week. So I'm going to read a list of the schedule for when everyone is up and running their live show. And just remember that all these times are Eastern Standard Time. So on Sunday at 7:30 p.m., Sane Auto. Victor Sane runs a show twice a week when he's available, which is pretty frequently. He's a very busy guy. He's in the middle of a big move. He's the headliner of this Insane Friends group. And we owe a big thanks to Victor for being able to stick us in the calendar and give us the opportunity to be live Wednesday nights at 9 o'clock. Later that evening at 9 p.m., again, Eastern Standard Time, is Gregory Salvatore. He's got a great automotive-related channel, and he talks about some other things as well. Great guy. On Mondays, One Wheel E is on at 9 o'clock. Tuesday, Bubsification, again, 9 o'clock. Wednesday, it's Victor time again, Sane Enterprises, at 7:30 p.m. And then at 9 o'clock, it's the Muscle Car Appraisal show, with a little stipulation. There are times where we're not going to be available to broadcast live on Wednesday. The last few Wednesdays, I've been on an airplane, literally, once on the way back from New Mexico after inspecting a couple of fabulous Volkswagens that have a great story. They were pickup trucks. One was a single cab, one was a double cab. Fantastic story. We will be talking about them in the future. So I was on my way back. I think that one was 36,000 feet. Not able to be live from the plane. The technology isn't quite there yet. Another time I was on my way out to the Mecum auction in Indianapolis at that time of night. So I wasn't able to be live last week either. But when I'm in town and everything is up and running, I will be live. And we hope to see you all back. So if you haven't already, please subscribe and ring the bell. That way you'll get a notification ahead of time that we will be running live. And there may be a special time of the week where we have to jump on live. Maybe there might be some new exciting news in the automotive industry that we feel we want to get out there. So we might just be on a Thursday afternoon or a Friday morning, possibly even on a weekend. You just never know when we might pop up. We want to get out. Ring the bell, you're going to get your notification. Back to the schedule. Thursday, Dorito and Luca Cabre. They're on at 9:30 p.m. And Easy to Tips, Tricks, etc., is on from 10:30 till midnight. And on Saturday, Chopper's Rule 1 is on at 6:30 p.m. and FAB, F-A-B, Automotive Detailing, is on at 9 o'clock. Again, all those people are part of the Insane Friends community. They all have their YouTubes streaming live at those times, and they're all Eastern Standard Time. And again, we thank Victor for bringing us into that community. So, about our channel. We're an automotive channel, and we will speak about a wide variety of things in the automotive field. It could be anything from what was the first car that you purchased? What was the car that you took to the DMV to get your license? What age were you when you got your license? Oh, by the way, it seems to be that a lot of the younger crowd today are not so concerned about getting their driver's license at the first opportunity that they have. I remember I got mine right on my 16th birthday, the same day. And I was out and driving that afternoon, haven't stopped since. You have Uber, Lyft, rideshare, better public transportation, and then there's old mom and dad. Just seems that the younger kids are not so concerned. We'd like to hear from the younger crowd as well. Again, anything automotive related, we're open to the subject. How many cars have you owned? What was the favorite car that you owned? What would be the favorite car that you would want to own? What's the lowest price you've ever paid for a car? How many cars have you owned over the years? If you had the unfortunate experience of having been in a collision loss or had your car stolen or vandalized, I've been a licensed appraiser for 35 years. I have a lot of experience there. Can help you out if necessary. Happy to talk to you about it.
Hard
Yes.
Life Survivor says his first car that he bought with his own money, 1984 RX-7 GS rotary engine.
RX-7.
Hard Life Survivor.
Hard Life Survivor joined us tonight, and a 1984 Mazda RX-7 was his first car that he purchased with his own money. Those were, for the year, those were a fantastic car, and the rotary engine was exclusive to Mazda, and they ran quite well. And Mazda, still a popular car. Technology advanced. They had a couple of twin rotor. They had a twin rotor model come out later on that was just an absolute brute, and it turned out to be a very collectible car, very desirable. How would you go about buying a muscle car in today's world, whether it be an old one or a modern muscle car? Where would you look? What websites would you seek out? How far would you travel to find the right car? Who would you contact to maybe have somebody look at the car for you if it's halfway across the country and it all sounds great, but you want an experienced pair of eyes to inspect the vehicle and give you a report just to make sure that everything is up to snuff for your needs, wants, and desires. We're going to talk a little bit more in depth about that in just a short time here on tonight's show.
Jim from the Video Call-In Show is on.
Oh, Jim from the Video Call-In Show has joined us this evening, and we owe many, many thanks to Jim. Going back quite a while, our very first live was produced by Jim, and it went flawless the entire evening. Couldn't have done it that night without him. We owe him big thanks. Just yesterday, he helped Bob with some current situations, and they worked things through. Long story short, going on YouTube Live is just not as easy as clicking one button and boom, you're there. There's software, hardware, and a lot of preparation. Got to know what buttons to push. There's audio and video and a bunch of other things going on. Jim is an expert, and people can reach out to him. He has a show Monday through Friday, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, called the Video Call-In Show. And he'll talk about anything. Very intelligent man, very personable. You can become a video guest on his show. His show is one of a kind. So check him out, Monday to Friday, 10 o'clock. Very interesting, popular show. So I'm glad that he's joined us. We'll talk a little bit more about Jim. I just spent this past weekend with him at the Mecum auction in Indianapolis. We had an absolutely fantastic time. Bounced a lot of ideas off of each other. I learned some things about Mustangs and Broncos. He learned some things about Chevelles, Camaros. And I actually taught him a couple things about Mustangs. And I was actually proud of that. So, great time with Jim. We'll have a few more details about that coming up in tonight's show. Speaking about this show and things that we'll talk about, we want to give you, our viewing audience, the opportunity to become part of our show. You can send us photographs of your car. Even if you don't have photographs, but you want to be a video guest on our show, contact us. Up on the screen here, you see our email address for contact, mycaronmca@gmail.com. Send us photographs of your car. It could be any car, your first car, your current car, a car you had in the past, a dream car that you'd like to talk about. And we will then contact you back and make specific arrangements to get you and your car on the show. And again, if you don't have photographs, that's quite all right. We're more than willing to talk to you about your automotive experiences. And it doesn't have to be a high-end show car. It could be anything. Again, it could be your current daily driver that you're just absolutely in love with. It could be a show car. Maybe it's a car you bought for $25 and have done a full restoration. Maybe it's a car that you drag race. I have quite a bit of experience on the drag strip, so I can hang in there with you with a high-tech conversation. Again, anything automotive, we're happy to talk to you about your cars. Speaking of that, let's show a couple examples of cars with photographs, and every car has a story. And we'd like to talk to you about your car and the story about your car that goes along with it. So, Bob, why don't you bring up our orange car? Or actually, you know what's a better idea? Let's talk about this brown car. This is a 1966 Chevelle Super Sport, 396 4-speed. It's an Aztec bronze color for both the interior and the exterior. The story behind this particular car is I had a client who wanted a 66 or a 67 Chevelle. And he made contact with me because he found a car local to him. He had test driven it, had fallen in love with it, but he wanted an experienced pair of eyes to inspect the car and tell him if it was everything that he wanted and if it was going to treat him well, if it needed work, kind of get into the car's history. Again, an experienced pair of eyes. So I met this gentleman to look at a blue 66 Chevelle. And again, he drove it to a mutual meeting point. I inspected the car, blue, and I asked him, I said, Glenn, I said, when you drove this car here, was it a bit noisy? And he said, yeah, but it's an old car. I expected that. And I told him, the car was up on a lift, and I told him, look up there. Driver's door was closed. I said, you can see right through the car to the interior of the vehicle. There's a weather strip that's supposed to go around the door and seal out water, wind, and wind noise. And it was missing. And that was ultimately the cause of his excessive wind noise. Went over to the other side, that one was 25% there. Got a look underneath the car. The floors were starting to rust. The engine was leaking oil everywhere. The transmission was leaking. This car had a lot of issues. The driver's door had plenty of repair work that was not top quality. Still had a dent in the bottom edge of the door shell. Long story short, this was not the car for Glenn. And he said, okay, Jim, I understand. I get it. Now go find me a car. You know what I want. Make it happen. So I did a search and I found this Aztec bronze car. Bob, you want to bring that up again? That was going to be at the Mecum auction in Indianapolis last weekend. And there was a bunch of other Chevelles as well, 66, 67, a few black ones. Glenn had demanded a Super Sport 4-speed bucket seat car. But by the photographs and the description, I had scoped out this particular car and made it my target at the auction. I looked at some of the other ones to get a feel for what was in the field, and then I came across this Aztec bronze car. And it is absolutely gorgeous. I was into the inspection by about an hour, inside, outside, upside down, got under the hood, and the owner of the car, the consignor, came over. And he said, I have been watching you, and I've never seen anybody inspect a car as thoroughly as you. And I said, I can assume you're the owner? And he said, yes. I talked to this gentleman for 2.5 hours, got the entire history on the car. The person that owned it before him was a personal friend of his. He had it for over 20 years. During that period of time, he waited for one specific individual to repaint the car. He was on a waiting list for 3 years. And I can understand why he waited, because the body and paint on this car are absolutely fantastic, show quality. And the car was painted in 2001, and it still looks that good. You'd be hard-pressed to believe that that car was painted 18 plus years ago. So I talked to the consignor and learned that his friend had an accident at work, and the left side of his body was severely injured. And he not only has difficulty walking, but there's no way he can push in a clutch and drive a standard transmission car. So he sold the car to Mr. Christofferson, who was the consignor at Mecum. He's had it for a year. During that year's time, he put a new interior, from headliner to carpet and everything in between. Absolutely gorgeous interior, and it is all very, very proper. Did a couple things under the hood to make it up to par. He put power steering, a little bit more modern than what is proper for the car, which necessitated him moving the alternator over to the driver's side of the passenger side of the car. For 66, they had alternator and power steering on the driver's side with a remote reservoir over to the left fender. But in this particular case, it is on a more modern car where you have the power steering on the driver's side, alternator on the passenger side, and everything is just fine. And the engine's been rebuilt, the transmission has been rebuilt, the rear end has been rebuilt. This car has been gone through bumper to bumper. And I determined that this car would fit the bill for my client, Glenn. So I called him on the phone right from the auction and said, I'm here, I've inspected the car, it passes the test, I've spoken to the owner, I have a history. This car is for you. This car will satisfy every one of your needs. You will be terribly excited when this car rolls into your driveway, if we are able to get the winning bid. So I had all my agreements were set in place contractually, was able to determine how far he would go for a hammer price, because there are some fees after the fact, including sales tax. The state of Illinois declares Mecum to be a dealer at this particular auction. And whenever a dealer sells a car, they have to charge sales tax. And that sales tax money is then sent to the company or the state that the car will live. So this car is actually coming to Connecticut. So Indianapolis will be sending Connecticut state sales tax to the state of Connecticut. So when Glenn goes to register the car, his sales tax is already paid. There's a buyer's fee of 10% of the hammer price. There's a paperwork processing fee on the part of Mecum. Glenn wired money, so there was a wire transfer fee from Mecum. And then he had to get the car transported to his house. I happened to make those arrangements on his behalf because I was there at the auction. He's got multiple choices, as does anybody, as to exactly which company they want to transport the car. And in this particular case, Glenn said, you know what, just let Mecum do it. I'll roll their fee right into the wire transfer. So it was a one-shot deal at the bank. Everything is paid for. Car will be picked up this coming Thursday at the auction facility and be transported to Glenn. Might actually show up over the weekend. I'm going to do my best to be there. I got a big car show. I have the Hemmings Muscle Palooza show in New York, in Lebanon Valley Dragway this coming Sunday. So I really hope that the car is not delivered on Sunday, because I want to. This guy's smile is going to be this big when they open the door and this car rolls out of the back of the enclosed transport. And I want to take his photograph. And I'm sure his wife is going to be doing the same. So, all in all, that's a service that I provide to customers. If you are on the hunt for a particular vehicle, I'm happy to help and guide you in finding the right car. The other Chevelles that I looked at the auction, we're just not going to cut the mustard for Glenn. Again, I spent time with Glenn, interviewed him, knew exactly what he wanted, what he was going to do with the car. Did he want to work on it? Did he want a turnkey car? Did he want something that was going to attract a lot of attention and basically not nickel and dime him to death? Again, true super sport, 4-speed, bucket seats were mandatory. Really wanted a black interior car, but the bronze color of this interior is absolutely gorgeous, and he is just going to be so happy. So there's a story behind this car. I picked up on that, gave all that information to Glenn, and he is just terribly excited. So speaking of stories behind cars, if you choose to send us pictures of your car and want to be a guest on our show, we're going to contact you and get some background on the car and talk about the story behind your car. Again, the email address to send us your photos or to reach out to us for that subject, or if you just have questions in general, is mycaronmca@gmail.com. You can have questions, opinions, car photos, ideas, suggestions. If you have a topic that you'd like to have us talk about on the show, whether you're a participant live or if you just want to chime in on the chat, feel free. Send us those emails. We'll see if we can make it happen. So here's a couple of additional cars, actually 3 of them, that have stories behind them. Bob, let's take a look at the orange car. This is a 1968 Dodge Charger. That's not popping up on the screen. Where did it go? Well, here I am. I'm still here. Do any of the other cars work, Bob? Here we go with technical problems again. Like I mentioned before, software issues, hardware issues. Broadcasting live on YouTube is not at the snap of a finger and is not at the push of a button. There's a lot of things. We tested this a dozen times and it worked perfectly. Here we are live and it decides not to work. Can't give you a reason, but we'll figure it out. But let's talk about what these cars are. There's a 68 Dodge Charger. The story behind the car is 2 brothers. They purchased the car, did a full-blown restoration in their garage. And the car is absolutely gorgeous inside and out. One of the brothers did the engine rebuild, transmission rebuild, rear end rebuild. Another brother, the owner, did the interior, and the 2 of them got together and did the body and paint. Absolutely fantastic job, right on the level of some of the professional restoration shops that are out there. And I had the pleasure of inspecting the car, appraising the car, writing up a 14-page highly detailed report on the car, and ultimately put a value on it. And they were just thrilled with the paperwork, and my time spent with them, absolutely fantastic. They knew every single thing about this car because they built it themselves. They answered every question at the snap of a finger like that, Every detail was right in their mind, right on the tip of their tongue. These guys didn't skip a beat, and they were just two down-to-earth, genuine guys. Just absolutely fantastic. That was very enjoyable inspection. Another one of the cars that I was going to talk about is a high-end Resto Mod 67 Chevelle Super Sport. Big story behind this car. And of course, that one's not going to show up on the screen either. So we're going to shorten the story on that. Gentleman was in the market for a 67 Chevelle, found one advertised. It was in the midst of a full-blown factory appearing restoration. He and two buddies went to the shop, saw the car. It was in primer, ready for paint. And he made a deal. He bought the car. Then he made a request for some modifications. Changed the color, changed the suspension. It's got big brakes, big wheels and tires, air suspension, changed the steering. Full-blown Resto Mod. All the interior is custom. 496 cubic inches, a big block Chevy, fuel injected, headers. Just an absolutely phenomenal car. And I'm in the process of putting together a high-end appraisal for that as well. He sent me every receipt, and the shop was phenomenal. They documented literally every nut, bolt, clip, fastener, you name it. It's in the paperwork. I will get all that information into my appraisal and get it done. And the third car that I was going to talk about is a 1970.5 Camaro Z28 with the Rally Sport option. So technically, it's an RS Z28. That car is owned by a gentleman that had 3 benchmark Corvettes. And a benchmark Corvette they were 1967 model years, and a benchmark Corvette is an unrestored virgin factory issue car in every respect. If you happen to take one of these cars out on the road and something happens to it, sure, it can be repaired, but to match factory paint from 1967 that has been cracked and crazed and shows its age, not going to happen. You got brand new paint in a spray gun, and it's going to look beautiful. So it's going to be very obvious what was repaired on the car and repainted. So this particular gentleman had a car, took his 3 Corvettes to a car show once a year, and the car show was in his front yard because he couldn't take the cars out on the road. He got tired of it, so he decided, I'm going to sell one of these Corvettes, and I'm going to get a car that I can actually drive. So he happens to find this 70.5 Z28 and buys the car, needs it appraised. It was a restored vehicle, one of the best in the country, was in multiple magazines, phenomenal car. Calls his Corvette appraiser and says, hey, I bought this big dollar Camaro, I need an appraisal for my insurance company. And the guy said, not going to be me, I'm Corvette only. So the gentleman contacted me and said, hey, can you get out here and do an appraisal on my Camaro? And I said, absolutely. Ironically, I was going to be he's from Illinois. I was going to be in the Chicago area looking at 2 other cars. I said, if we can squeeze it in on Thursday, I should be able to make it out. I'll leave first thing in the morning, even if it needs to be before the sun comes up. I'll figure out my travel time, get to your house, get the car inspected, should be able to get back to O'Hare Airport, get on the plane, get back home. Sure enough, pulled it off. Great guy. Got my eyeballs on his 2 Corvettes. And that was a good story behind both of those as well. So, again, every car has a story. We'd like to hear your story, so get in contact with us at mycar@mca@gmail.com. And let's see if we can get you and your car on our channel. We'd be happy to do so. Okay, another subject that we'd like to bring in as a weekly feature is automotive news. There's a lot happening during the week. New car models are coming out, teasers. One of the biggest things going on right now is the C8 Corvette rear engine. They've made an announcement as to when that car is going to be made known to the public as far as an unveiling. The new Mustang GT500, the Shelby Mustang GT500, was announced, and Ford has only said it's going to be more than 700 horsepower. I know the capabilities as to how much over 700 they can play with, because you can get a Roush Mustang Jackhammer edition, supercharged and deep into the 700 horsepower range. So Ford has the capability of doing the exact same thing. So, automotive news throughout the week. I watch, I read, I make notes, and we're going to make that part of our weekly broadcast. Whenever we're able to broadcast live on YouTube, there's going to be some automotive news. And feel free to jump in the chat and tell us what you know about what came out this past week or the past 2 weeks, however long it's been since you've been on the channel and watching our stream. So, happy to talk about the news. I got a few things here to talk about. And one subject is an ongoing battle between a Camaro and a Mustang. This has been going on since 1967 when the Camaro was introduced. So I have some current figures here to compare a 2019 Camaro versus a 2019 Mustang. So I wrote them down on this piece of paper, so I'm going to pretend like I'm a younger Walter Cronkite before his retirement, and I'm going to read off some figures here, and let's see if we get some banter back and forth. Yes, Bob?
Pete from Camaro Time happens to be on with us tonight.
Oh. Welcome, Pete. Glad you're able to join us. Probably some of these Camaro figures you already are aware of. Camaro Time has a fantastic YouTube channel. Some highly detailed information about all the generations of Camaros. And Pete, if I'm going to rattle off a trivia question that may involve a Camaro, you get to be quiet, because guaranteed you're going to know the answer.
Also, Uzo Lou Garage is on, and he's good with Mustangs.
Uzo Lou Garage, Mustang enthusiast. So here we have Camaro Time and Uzo Lou. Typical. One guy's a Camaro guy, one guy's a Mustang guy. Let's get some banter going back and forth between these two and all the other people that are Mustang fans and the people that are Camaro fans. Again, it's been a long discussion, battle, feud, interesting conversation. So, 2019 Camaro SS versus 2019 Mustang GT. The 1SS trim level car starts at $37,995, and the Mustang starts at $36,350. Mustang wins that category as it's $1,645 less. Again, these are starting points for the cars. The option lists go from there, but we're going to stick with base model pricing right now. Again, Mustang $1,645 less. They both come standard with a 6-speed manual transmission. In the Camaro, when you have a stick, you have a 373 rear end gear, and on the Mustang, it's a 355 rear end gear. For the performance enthusiast, we're going to give that one to the Camaro. I happen to like a little bit of gear in the rear. The overdrive transmission knocks the RPMs right down on the highway, give you a low RPM cruising, so that's not an issue. But in the first 4 gears, where fourth gear is a 1-to-1, first gear is pretty stiff, I'll take all the gear I can get. 10-speed automatic transmission is optional in both cars for $1,595 in both cars. And it happens to be that Ford and GM teamed up to co-develop this 10-speed automatic transmission. and it is a phenomenal transmission. On a side note, 2019 Chevrolet has finally advised that they will offer the 10-speed auto in a ZL1 with the 1LE package. Previously, that was manual transmission only. When the Camaro was on the Nürburgring track over in Germany, the 10-speed auto pulled an amazing track time. And the audio on that video that you can see, it's not a 1LE car. ZL1, it is a 1LE car, but it's not a ZL1 1LE. Just listening to that transmission downshift, they just left it in shift by yourself mode, manual mode. The guy was not clicking the pedals, making the transmission shift. That thing was absolutely spot on. You can put on headphones, earbuds, or have your stereo speakers turned up. You can just close your eyes and listen to this thing sing. Just absolutely amazing transmission. It's available for an additional $15.95 in both the Camaro and the Mustang. When you switch to the automatic, they change the rear end gear. The Camaro drops from a 373 down to a 277. But they make up for it that there's actually 10 forward gears. And the Mustang drops to a 315. In with the automatic, the Mustang is going to win on that because they have a little bit more gear in the rear. The gear ratios 1 to 10 are mostly the same, slightly different. I'm not going to get into those specifications and drive you all nuts. Engine-wise, 6.2 liter direct injection for the Camaro with 455 horse at 6,000 RPMs, 455 foot-pounds of torque at 4,400 RPMs. So that's 455 for both horsepower and torque. And the Mustang has 460 horse, 5 more than the Camaro, but it drops to 420 horse in the Mustang. The Mustang's horsepower is at 7,000, which is 1,000 more than the Camaro, and the torque is at 4,600, which is 200 more than the Camaro. So 1.2 liters smaller with a 5.0 for the Mustang versus 6.0 for the Camaro, making 5 more horsepower at a 1,000 RPM higher tag. And it was noted that the Mustang horsepower was rated with 93 octane. So you know that the computer was putting in as much timing as possible, as far as it could go, to avoid detonation and bring that horsepower number right up there. So let's give the edge to the Mustang for 2 reasons. Smaller cubic inches, 5 horsepower. I guaranteed if you spin that Camaro engine up to 7,000 RPMs, you're not going to bring more than 455 horse. Chevrolet, I'm sure, tagged that at the highest horsepower. Whatever the RPM was, that's the horsepower they were going with. So let's look at the weight of the cars. 3685 for a manual transmission Camaro, 3705 for a manual transmission Mustang, 20 pounds more for the Mustang. And then in the automatic cars, 3697 for the Camaro, 3733 for the Mustang, so the Mustang weighs 36 more. So the Camaro is a little bit lighter in both manual and automatic transmission versions. So that's going to translate, because our horsepower is so close and our weight, overall weight is so close. Let's look at the quarter mile times. An automatic transmission Camaro is going to run the quarter at 12.4 at 115.8. And holy cow, I did not write down a standard transmission Mustang. So let's move over and compare manual to manual. The Camaro, and you know, I screwed that up too. The automatic transmission Camaro runs a 12.4. The manual transmission Camaro runs a 12.5. The manual runs at 115.8. So comparing apples to apples here, transmission-wise, between the cars, We got an automatic transmission Camaro at 12.4 at 115.8, and the Mustang at 12.1 at 118.8. So it knocks 0.3 off the Camaro and a full 3.0 miles an hour. So Mustang wins that hands down. 0.3 of a second, 3 miles an hour on top end. Hands down, Mustang wins that. So the little bit of extra weight didn't hurt the Mustang at all. And, that 5 horsepower difference is not going to make 0.3 and 3 miles an hour. So the Mustang's got it going on. So we got to give the tip of the hat to the Mustang on that one. Let's talk about 0 to 60 time. Mustang's going to win that one as well at 3.9, while the Camaro's at 4.1. Since we're comparing the cars, look at wheel and tire size on each car. The Camaro in the front has got 8.5 by 20s, and in the rear has got 9.5 by 20s, whereas the Mustang's got 18 by 8s all the way around. You got a Camaro with a 245/40/20 front and a 275/35 rear. So the rear footprint on the Camaro is going to be bigger than the Mustang with a 235/50/18 all the way around. Now some people might argue that an 18-inch wheel is going to have a taller profile, which gives a little bit more flexibility to the tire. True, but we're between 18s and 20s, they're both a low profile tire, and you're starting to split hairs. Let's take up some of that difference with the footprint of the Camaro. The advantage goes to the Camaro footprint wise, but yet the Mustang gets it done. 1/4 mile and 0 to 60. I don't know what day, what the temperature was, what the humidity was when each of these runs were made, but you can be rest assured that Chevrolet tested the car on multiple days, multiple tracks, tried to get a really good density altitude recording, because on a low DA day is when you're going to make your most horsepower and come up with your best 0 to 60 and 1/4 mile runs. And you can be assured that Ford did that as well. Yes, Bob, what do we got going on now?
Time and Lou, Uzo and Lou both have opinions. See the last 2 quotes.
Okay, Camaro time. Camaro's limited to the computer on the 60-foot time, but that would not matter. Those 3 and 4 valve Mustang engines react very well. Okay, learn something new. Limited Camaro time. Type back in exactly what the computer's doing to limit the 0-60 time. And are you aware of anybody that got a tune on their car to get rid of those limitations, and if they've been to the track and have been able to pull something better than what factory issue is? I'd be interested in that. Uzo Lou, seems like the Mustang always had a small tire. Yep, I agree. And certainly in this particular case, I believe there are optional wheels on the Mustangs. Maybe as the trim level goes up, certainly on a carbon fiber wheel is going to be bigger with a bigger tire. But again, we were comparing base models here. And my research for tonight's show didn't bring me notes as to anything optional in these categories.
As a side note, Hard Life Survivor wants to put a Hemi in his Jeep.
A Hemi in a Jeep.
Hard Life Survivor.
Hard Life Survivor wants to put a Hemi in his Jeep. Tell us what year Jeep and what model. Some of the newer Jeeps, the Trackhawk, the results that guys are getting out of that Trackhawk, the brand new Jeep, incredible. All-wheel drive, that thing is out there on the drag strip, 0 to 60 in a 60-foot time, unbelievable. Guys are making modifications similar to what's in a Hellcat and bringing 1,000 horsepower to the truck. Phenomenal. Now, if you're talking about an old CJ5 or an old CJ7, Oh, I'd love to see that. And I'm really wanting to put a Hemi into a old school Cherokee Sport, say like a 2000 Cherokee. A lot of people refer to them as a baby Cherokee because they were smaller than a Grand Cherokee. If somebody can stuff a Hemi into one of those, and when you're telling us about that, let us know if you're talking about, say, maybe a new modern 392 Hemi, or are you talking an old school 426? That would be quite interesting.
It's a 2017 Rubicon JKU.
Okay. So, 17 Rubicon.
JKU.
Yeah, the JK version. Yeah, let's see you stuff a Hemi in that. I would love. Take pictures. Send us though. As you're going through. If you take on that project, take photos of things along the way. Modifications you have to do to shoehorn that thing in there. Custom fabrication. Let us know. Take pictures. Send us the pictures. Love to have you on a guest and talk about that. Get your pictures up on the screen. You can explain to our audience. That would be an absolutely fantastic show. Would love to see you come in as a guest. What else you got for us, Bob?
Camaro Time answered. He said, I am not aware of the tune, but GM has limited the Camaro, even the Z1, to run no quicker than 1.70 60-foot time.
All right. Camaro Time is not aware of the tune, but General Motors has limited the Camaro, including the ZL1, to run no quicker than 1.7 in the 0 to 60, in the 60-foot times, which is going to have an effect on the 0 to 60 time. Interesting as to why they've limited the car in their 60-foot time. The better your 60-foot time, that translates to something up at the other end in the quarter mile. You make a tenth down low, you're going to pick up more than a tenth up the other end, and your mile an hour is going to increase as well. A lot of drag racers are very, very concerned about their 60-foot time. They changed their suspension tuning specifically to make it down low. Don't want to spin the tires, go up in smoke. Don't want to have tire shake if you're running a big slick tire car. Big tire slick or even a drag radial. You want to maximize your 60-foot time. Again, it's going to translate to a better time up the other end. So I'm going to look into that. Let's see, what else do we have here in the chat?
Fourth from the bottom, Uzo Lu.
At a car and coffee past weekend, saw a CJ with a 392 Hemi. He's got footage of it. Lou, if you haven't put that on your channel and you want to share it with us, we'll make that part of our next live. Would love to see that. I knew it was possible, because just about anything is possible. I saw a Hemi in a Volkswagen Bug in the front. Somebody that worked for Pratt & Whitney Aircraft, I believe, did a lot of modification, fabrication, and shoehorned a Hemi right into a VW Bug. Would love to see that. Lou, let's make that part of our channel. Send us some information. And Bob, who was the other gentleman that was a Hard Life Survivor? Maybe Lou can share some photographs if you're still doing some research to see what it's going to take to get that into your Jeep. Again, we'd love to make that part of this broadcast.
He's going to send us Hard Life's going to send us a video.
Oh, great. Would love to see it. Let's see. Camaro Time says, someone send me a Hellcat engine. I'll put it in one of my Camaros. Hey, there you go. Let's upset the heck out of the Mopar community and put a Hemi in a Camaro. That would be quite interesting. And boy, YouTube would be on fire about that. We'd love to see it. We'd love to see it first here on our channel.
Hey Jim, tell us about your trip to New Mexico with the Volkswagens.
Okay. Let's see, I got to read a question here. Carla Sear asks, if you could choose between a Camaro or a Mustang, which one would it be? What modifications would you make to make it quicker? Boy, that's a good question. I'd have to get specific on the year of the Mustang. after my weekend spent with Jim, learning some additional things about Mustangs, I had already knew quite a bit. I'm not going to claim that I knew everything about Mustangs. Um, but over time, having to inspect Mustangs and learning more of the history, if I got into an older Shelby, let's just say a 67 GT 500, that would be incredible. Dual quad 428 police interceptor engine. Um, do some modifications to that thing, it would be an absolutely incredible car. But I think I would still do a Camaro. For a Camaro is the first car that I ever built. Bought the car for $200. Was the world's ultimate ugliest piece of junk. No wheels, no tires, no engine, no transmission, painted with a paintbrush, had shag carpeting for a headliner, and the dashboard was painted with a paintbrush as well, and the dash pad had wallpaper for a covering. And when I brought that car home, my father just could not believe it, and he said, "What on earth have you done? Get that thing into the garage, shut the door, put blinds on the windows, because I don't want the neighbor to be able to see that car. You are absolutely out of your mind." I took that car right down to a bare shell. Every nut and bolt was off it. I went through everything, built a new engine for it, put a Doug Nash 5-speed in it, changed the rear end gear, rebuilt the suspension, changed it to disc brakes, changed the interior from blue to black, put quarter panels, rocker panels, fenders, changed the doors. You name it, I did it. When I was done with that car, it was absolutely the nicest car in the city of Bristol, where I live. And for a short time, it was also the fastest car in town. Nitrous oxide came on the scene, technology came on the scene. You beat one guy, he's going to go home and he's going to make his car faster. So it wasn't long before somebody came along and had a faster car. But I just kept my car as is. I had already sunk a ton of money into it, and I had my eye on another car. So rather than going overboard and changing the engine, because I would have gone to more cubic inches, different cylinder heads, different camshaft, bigger headers, change everything, put a different rear end in the car. Transmission was good for it, but I didn't want to put another $10,000 plus into the car, and that's what it would have taken to bring me back to King of the Streets here in town, and just wasn't going to go there. So I kept it as a show car, and I would take my dad to shows, and he would see the attention. Then he said, "Now I get it. Now I know why you did what you did." So for Carla, I think I would stick with a Camaro. Whether I do modifications, I'd make some body modifications, certainly upgrade brakes, drivetrain, probably make it a twin turbo car, just because I like horsepower, I like to go fast. I'd have that thing on the drag strip. Technology has come such a long way that the choices for hardware in the car to make it ride, handle, 60 foot, run a big number up the top end, just incredible. Seats, have to put it would be fast enough, it would need a roll cage, upgrade the seat belts, put jamming tunes in the thing. Yeah. Not too much though, because I can't add a lot of weight to the car because I got to keep it really fast. And my drag racing friends would truly appreciate that. So for now, I'm sticking with a Camaro. LS swap, actually, the latest and greatest is an LT4 swap. The new generation of engine that's out there. But those are supercharged. I probably want to twin turbo the car. So maybe, you can always twin turbo an LT4. But anyway, that's the route I would go. I'm sticking with a Camaro there, Carla. So as Bob mentioned, and I mentioned early in the show, I went to New Mexico to inspect two Volkswagen pickup trucks. Not too many people know that Volkswagen made a pickup truck. Cool vehicle, a lot of innovation, a lot of thought. One of these was a double cab, and it was originally shipped to Ireland. And it was a right-hand drive, so the steering wheel is on the passenger side of the truck. And it's a double cab, but only with 3 doors. And they put the door for the back on the left side. They happen to drive on the wrong side of the road over in Ireland. So when they put the steering wheel on the wrong side and they drive on the wrong side. I don't know what's going on over there. But anyway, the reason for the third door being over there is when you pull up to a curb, the rear passenger can step out onto the sidewalk rather than stepping out into traffic. Pretty innovative, pretty smart. They were thinking. So what this gentleman did was he got an American version of a double cab pickup. Okay? Left-hand drive, rear door on the right side. So again, when we pull up to the curb, passenger can get out onto the sidewalk. He took the rear door, the B-pillar, the rear cab panel filler section, and the cab corner, and grafted them onto this Irish version truck, and made it a true 4-door truck. And because he used Volkswagen everything off the American vehicle, it looks 100% factory issue. Kudos to his body and paint guy for doing such a wonderful job. Absolutely incredible. There is nothing to indicate that this is not a factory issue. The door hinges have little caps on the top. He used those. The doors have a cloth limiter strap held in by pins. He has those. And speaking of that, here's some further thought by Volkswagen. When you remove the pin, that rear door is able to swing open 180 degrees right against the front door. If you did that, the outer door handle on the front door would literally make a dent in the rear door. So you have a rear door that's this long, and your door handle is over here, and on your front door the door handle is here. So when you swing open, it's going to be the front part of the door that touches the driver's door handle. So what Volkswagen did was they made a relief in the front section of the rear door. So when you open 180 degrees, that relief provides an area for the front door handle to fit into that recess. No damage to the door. Also, they put a rubber bumper on the door, a little stopper. So when you open that door 180 degrees, that rubber stopper meets a mating rubber stopper on the front door. So both doors are protected. You can open it up 180 degrees, no damage to the front or to the rear doors. Pretty cool deal. There's a whole bunch of other things in that vehicle that were just cool and innovative. Again, the body and paint was done phenomenally. So that truck is either a one of one or a one of two, because there are rumors running around that there's another 4-door truck, but nobody knows where it is. So until that one is produced, my customer in Los Alamos, New Mexico, is the owner of very possibly a one-of-one 4-door double cab 1978 Volkswagen pickup. Another thing that's really cool about the truck is the sides of the bed fold down 180 degrees, and the tailgate as well. Again, rubber bumpers to help stop that panel, prevent damage. So now you have on a single cab truck, you have a 9-foot bed, and on a double cab truck, you have a 5-foot bed. And the bed ends up to be about belt height, so you can pick something up really heavy and just slide it right onto the bed with no issue. You can bring a forklift and on there because you're not going to touch the bed sides. You're dealing with a perfectly flat and level surface. Just a great idea. The tailgate folds down, And you can actually drive the truck with all the sides down on both the bed and have the tailgate down as well. But when you do that, the tailgate obscures the taillights. So there's a gentleman that is hand fabricating tailgates with a relief cutout. So when you fold down the tailgate, the taillight is exposed and you can drive with the tailgate down and people are able to see your brake lights and your signal lights. Really cool, innovative stuff going on in the Volkswagen world. And some of the Volkswagens are bringing crazy money. A 21 window Samba bus, a 23 window Samba bus have gotten deep into the 100,000 range. 150. The restorations are just phenomenal, and there is a following for those vehicles, and they are bringing some big money at auction. So, getting back to the pickup, he had a second pickup truck. It's a single cab. Great. I mentioned before multiple times, every car's got a story. This single cab pickup, Volkswagen had an assembly plant in Mexico, and they needed to make a decision as to whether or not they wanted to build pickup trucks on the assembly line. So Volkswagen sent over 2 trucks, a single cab and a double cab, both completely loaded with options. Every available option were in these vehicles. So the Mexico assembly plant could check them out. Something as simple and detailed as intermittent wipers. The stock is on the right side, and it goes through a collar on the steering wheel. Well, you need to have a relief in that collar for the stock to go through. If the truck did not have intermittent wipers, the collar is different because you don't need a cutout. There would be no reason to have an open blank in the steering column cover without having a stock on that side. So, again, they investigate the whole truck. Fog lights in the front or driving lights, whatever you want to call them, switches, other options here and there. They decide, nope, we're not making this vehicle on our assembly line. They have these 2 vehicles. They no longer have a need for them. Volkswagen didn't want them back in Germany. The Mexico assembly plant didn't want them, so they sold them. And this particular single cab went to Texas, to a Volkswagen dealer. He kept it for a while, changed the engine, put something few years newer, pancake style compared to upright, twin carburetors, maybe a couple other modifications here and there. And then he sold it. It went to somebody, and then somebody else sold it to somebody else. That guy was an instructor at a trade school in the auto body department. So they brought the truck in as a guinea pig, and they did body work and paint on it. Made it 2-tone, and then they sold it to the current owner, who happens to be my client. So this single cab pickup is the only one imported to the it was imported to Mexico, but then sold to a dealer in the United States. So it is the only single cab pickup with every available option that was produced in Germany, sent to the New Mexico assembly plant, and has every available option. And now it's here in the U.S. And it may be for sale at some point in the future. My client is trying to make that decision as to whether or not he wants to go through another full-blown restoration on a very unique truck, again, a one of one, and there's documentation to prove what the truck actually is, or does he just want to move on to something else and sell this truck as is? It runs, it drives, it's not a basket case, it's not ridiculously rusted and rotted, it does need some body work, it should be painted again. What they did at the trade school was, certainly not a very high-end professional repaint, so the paint on the roof is peeling a bit, but the truck is all there, it's all solid. Background, documentation, everything is there. Certainly would be a cool truck to buy. And in the Volkswagen world, again, it's a whole community of hardcore people. So much so that if you have a Volkswagen and you're going to go on a cross-country trip, there's a website that you can go to that other Volkswagen owners have signed up to, saying we will provide you roadside assistance. I forget what the acronym is, but it's air-cooled something. There may be as many as 5 letters in that acronym, but you can plot your road trip as to where you're going around the country, and you'll be able to see who's able to help you along your route. And my client, John, happened to get a phone call from somebody one day. They were out on the highway, engine was toast, completely blew the engine, they needed help. He said, I happen to have another Volkswagen bus in my driveway as a parts vehicle, and it has a good engine. Call AAA, get your bus towed to my house. We'll do an engine swap right here in my driveway. Sure enough, they did. The people that were driving the bus with the damaged engine, they knew exactly what they were doing. So they went to, John said, there it is right there. Go to town. Use my tools. Everything was absolutely fantastic. And in a matter of days, they were back out on the road to finish their tour wherever they were going along the country. I don't know another community that does that like the Volkswagen people. If there's somebody out there that's watching this video that knows, love to hear the story, and we'll tell it here on the Muscle Car channel. Yes, Bob, what do we got going on?
Bill 56 Bel Air has a question. I'm working on a 56 Bel Air. You see it?
Yeah, I see it. I'm working on a 56 Bel Air, and the engine is a 383, 434 horse with a 750 Holly, model 3310. My question is, would I have more performance with a double pumper Holly carb? Okay, so Bill's carburetor is a vacuum secondary, and 750 on a 383 is going to work very well in either a double pumper or a vacuum secondary. Here's what I would recommend. If the car is an automatic, I would stick with the vacuum secondary. Now, it has a diaphragm to activate the secondary venturi. And inside that housing, there is a spring. And Holly sells different weight and tension springs. So if you go to a lighter spring, the secondaries in the 4-barrel are going to open up sooner. And the heavier the spring, the stiffer the spring, the longer it's going to take. And it works on air velocity. So if you are at a low RPM and you stab the throttle, you're going to be working your primaries. But then as the CFM through the carburetor increases, the air velocity is going to push against the throttle blades, which push against the diaphragm and the spring, and the secondaries are going to open. And eventually, with enough air velocity, it's going to be wide open throttle in all 4 barrels. If it's a standard transmission vehicle,
4-speed.
It's a 4-speed. Okay. So with a 4-speed, a double pumper is more often than not the choice. They just, the combination of a double pumper and a 4-speed, you get that instant wide open throttle. Again, you're able to tune the secondaries on that as well. You can be halfway through your throttle pedal travel and you hit the secondaries and boom, they're going to be open. Maybe you want to be 3/4 of the way through your pedal travel and then the secondaries come in mechanically. Another thing to consider is your rear end gear. If you can chime in as to what you have for a rear end gear. If you have 273s, I would probably still stick with a vacuum secondary carb. If you have something like a 373, a 410, maybe even a 355, if it was a 323 gear with a 4-speed, I'd probably stick with a vacuum secondary carb. And if you happen to know if it's a wide ratio or a close ratio transmission, that's going to make a difference in your first gear ratio, which is going to have an effect as to how the car reacts when you stab the car in first gear. You're rolling along. Let's see, Ford 9-inch
with 350 gears.
Got it. Okay. Do you happen to, is it a Muncie 4-speed? And do you happen to know if it's a close ratio or a wide ratio? 350 would probably be the minimum numerically that I would want to see for a double pumper.
Wide ratio.
It's a wide ratio. Okay, so your first gear is stiffer than a close ratio. So you're going to see a little bit of a reaction difference with a double pumper. I would not be afraid to put a 350. A double pumper on that car. They're both going to be 750 CFMs. Where you're going to know the difference is on your initial whack of the throttle going wide open. With the stiff first gear on a wide ratio transmission, if you have one that you got your eye on and it's reasonably priced, I'd go for it. You're gonna like the difference. You're gonna have an instantaneous wide open throttle, all 4 barrels. The car should be able to take it, handle it. Again, you can tune accordingly. There's linkage adjustments, there's squirter adjustments. A lot of the double pumpers came with a 350cc accelerator pump in the rear, which is fantastic. If you end up with a lean stumble, you can increase squirter size to help that situation out. You can watch your jet size for the rear. Maybe you might need to increase. What kind of cylinder heads do you have on the car? That's going to make a difference. And how big is your camshaft? There's a lot of things that go into a very proper engine combination. In carb tuning, Muncie's is transmission, wide ratio. Ford is going to be the design of the rear end. Very popular out on the street, very strong. You can pick up a Ford 9-inch made to custom fit into a 56 Chevy with a few clicks of the mouse or with a phone call to some aftermarket suppliers, Curry, Mosier, and there's some others as well. So Bill, if you're still with us, let me know what you have for cylinder heads. Intake manifold as well, whether it's a dual plane or a single plane. All these things are going to factor in as to how a carburetor needs to be tuned for your exact combination. A long time ago, people just used to say, give me the biggest of everything. And all the parts were not mated or married together properly, and they had difficulties tuning the car and getting it to run really strong, really responsive, without any hiccups. The timing of the distributor, the curve of the distributor makes a difference. Depending on what distributor you have, you may have a printout of a timing curve. Your compression ratio is going to make a difference. How fast can I bring in timing to get clean, crisp throttle response? Do I have an issue with detonation? Do you have 93 octane fuel? Do you run an additive? Do you run an aftermarket fuel? Do you have 92 octane maximum where you live? Is there a lot of ethanol content? All these things go in and play a role into carburetor tuning. Hollies are easy to work with. Let's see. Roller cam, aluminum heads, 10-to-1 compression. Okay. Fairly common combination on a 383. A stroked 350. To give you the extra cubic inches, throw on a set of new aluminum heads. They're very reasonably priced. While you're at it, you're buying a camshaft. Might as well throw in a roller. With 10-to-1 compression, I would assume it's probably a hydraulic roller rather than a solid roller. And with a 350 gear, I would say you're probably doing all right. If you have that Holly and it's available to you and it's reasonably priced, you're going to see a difference in the way the car responds to stabbing the car, especially in first gear. Again, you're going to have that instant wide open throttle, whereas the vacuum secondary carb, you get instant wide open just on the primaries, and then slowly the vacuum the secondaries come in as those throttle blades open. Again, you can tune that spring and get them to open up pretty quick, but is it going to be instantaneous like a double pumper? Nope. And your car's probably right on the edge. If you had less of a gear, or if you had a really small flat top hydraulic camshaft, I would probably say stick with the vacuum secondary carb. But in your particular case, I would say go for it. And I think you'd be able to tune it. There's a lot of tuning videos out there. There's a lot of articles. There's a couple books as to how to tune a Holly. And once you get all your settings right, I think you'll be very happy. And fun to drive 56. They don't weigh a ton. And it sounds like, with your engine setup, that engine should run quite well. And I think you'd be very happy. So all in all, long story short, I'd go for it. I don't want to race the car, but I like the power. Yeah, it's a lot of fun rolling along in first gear out in the street, stab the gas, and boom, you're rocking and rolling. I'd go for it. Send us a picture of the car or a couple pictures. We'd like to bring it up on our screen and tell the audience, hey, we got a fan out there, and here's pictures of his car. If there's got to be a story behind it. Like I said before, there's a story behind every car. We'd love to hear about it, Bill. If you're willing to share, we're willing to listen. So, find anything else interesting going on in the chat here tonight, Bob?
Well, ask anybody if they have any other questions from you.
Okay.
He's 74 years old.
Bill's 74 years young, Bob.
Okay, good.
I hope that when I'm 74, that I'm still looking to get a little bit more excitement out of my hot rod car, just like Bill is.
Ask everybody if they did not have a chance to give us a thumbs up on the video.
So, yeah, if you've been able to give us a thumbs up, fantastic. If you haven't gotten to that point yet, give us a thumbs up on the video. Subscribe. Click the notification bell. Again, when we decide to go live, which we're going to do our best to make this weekly at 9 o'clock on Wednesday night Eastern Standard Time. Sometimes life gets in the way. Sometimes my business gets in the way. If I'm traveling on an airplane, haven't quite figured that one out yet. But Bob and I are going to do our best to be here live as many Wednesdays at 9 o'clock as possible. A big thing. Bob is the guy, he sits over there and he's running the show. The amount of hours that he puts into this channel don't have enough fingers and toes to count. Big thank you to Bob for making this a reality for me. We're having a lot of fun doing it. We have come across some stumbling blocks. Again, broadcasting a quality channel on YouTube is just not the press of a button. There's a lot that goes into this. We learned about hardware, software, audio, video, monitors. So I have something here that I can look at the chat to pick up some specific things. A lot going on to make this happen. We certainly appreciate all of our viewers, everyone that makes a comment, whether it be in tonight's chat or in the comments section if you happen to be watching the video. I know that we have some viewers that live in different time zones on the other side of the world, so they're going to be watching at a later time. They'll pop into the comments section and feel free to leave comments, questions. Again, visit us at our email, mycarandmca@gmail.com. Send us questions, send us suggestions, send us opinions, send us comments. And we're always looking for things to talk about.
Camaro Time has a comment on the bottom.
Okay. Camaro Time asks, you like racing and going fast. In today's racing, do you think the car is now the equalizer with the computers and stuff, or is it still the driver? Great question. And I'm gonna bring in another question that I remember from another live chat that we had. I call them nannies. There's a lot of opportunity to program your car. I have a friend with a 2013 Shelby GT 500, 667 horsepower. They made that car for 2 years, 2013, 2014. At the time, 667 horse was off the charts. It was the highest horsepower production car produced in the United States. That car, you can set your own rev limiter, you can set a line lock, you can set your traction control, you can set a rev limiter for in between gears, and then just sit there on the line with your foot on the floor. You're going to sit at a certain RPM. When the light turns green, you're dumping the clutch. Technically, when you see the last yellow, dump the clutch. Car is going to then react. Traction control is going to kick in, prevent massive tire spin. You're going to bang second gear as hard as you can. You're going to have a rev limiter to protect the engine. But still, the guy's got to drive. But you do have all those electronics that can help you drive the car. Take away the electronics, and it's all about the driver. Not every car has all those electronics. I have a saying, that car needs a driver modification. I know quite a few people that get them on the drag strip or even out on the street, and you put them in a high pressure situation of lining up against that guy over there, and it just doesn't work. It just does not work. One of my vehicles is a 91 GMC Syclone. It's a pickup truck, an S10 size pickup truck, but it's turbocharged all-wheel drive right from the factory. And of course, I've modified it. I can pull up to a Viper, a Ferrari, and a whole bunch of other cars. And if they have a standard transmission, and I get that guy to engage in a street race from traffic light to traffic light. Oh, wait a minute. I've never done that in my life. I've only done it on the drag strip. But anyway, if that situation were to ever occur and that guy is getting nervous and he's watching and he may even be able to see the other side of the traffic light and he sees that that one turned yellow and turned red and he knows this one's green and he doesn't feather that clutch just right and he just dumps it and nails the gas with excitement, and next thing you know, he's just sitting there spinning while my all-wheel drive truck is just gone. And I embarrassed the crap out of that guy. So there is still some driver input. There's still a lot of driver input. In my opinion, a very talented driver can make a car run faster. Not only down low in a 60-foot or a 0 to 60, and not only there, but up at the other end as well. Because again, if you get your increased time or your decreased time 0 to 60 or your decreased short time 0 to 60, it's going to translate up the other end and bring you a lower ET and a higher mile an hour. So turn off all the electronics, and a very talented driver is going to be able to get that car to run faster than with all the electronics on. Now, your less talented driver is going to be able to run faster with all the electronics because he doesn't have the experience yet to make that car run super hard, super fast. Now, getting into that prior question, somebody had asked, today's cars, big horsepower, faster than cars of yesteryears. Would you go out and race the car really hard, or would you just keep the car in the garage hoping that it would appreciate in value? It all depends on the car. If you just went out and bought a Hellcat, 707 horsepower, but it wasn't anything special as far as color, options, so on and so forth, I'd be out there driving that thing and racing it and having a great time. Buy an extra set of tires if you need to, buy a set of slicks, change your drive shaft, because those cars have a propensity to break the drive shaft if you throw a set of slicks on it. So be safe. Upgrade your drive shaft, make your modifications, go out, have a great time, modify the car, drive the car, drag race the car. Now you get into something that is very low production. I'm going to be getting involved with a Challenger that it's orange, and Chrysler had a problem on the assembly line with this paint. So they made this color orange on the assembly line. Well, they sprayed it on the assembly line for 2 days. So it is a very, very low production car because they only made orange for 2 days. Now, consider that along with the options of this particular car. And the owner has documentation that there is only one other car that was made. So this car has one twin. There's no triplets. This is a one of two Challengers produced exactly as is. That particular car is on the show car side of things. You're going to want to protect that car any way that you can. You're not driving it in the rain, on roads with sand. You're going to be careful where you go, when you go. You're going to try not to be stuck in traffic. Probably if it's 102 degrees, you're not going to be out in the car. Can the car handle it? Absolutely. It's got air conditioning and everything else. The clear coat paint is not going to melt. But again, it's a very unique, very special car, and the owner is going to be very cautious as to where he goes with it. Unfortunately, he was out with this car one day and somebody came and rear-ended him. So there's an insurance claim involved, and there's repairs involved and damage to the car, and there's going to be a diminished value to this car because, again, it was so unique, and it was a virgin car in all respects, with the exception of a little bit of wear on the tires and a couple miles on the odometer. But the exterior body was flat out factory issue, and now it's not going to be that way anymore. So the collectability of this car has declined. If you were looking at these two twins, which one would you want to buy? I want the virgin one that was never in an accident, because I'm taking this on the show car circuit. I want bragging rights. I want the untouched car. Would I buy the car that was previously damaged? Yeah, but I'm going to want to buy it for a lot less because I don't have the bragging rights that the other guy has. So I'm going to be helping that gentleman out with that and preparing a very highly documented file about the collector car world, the rarity of this particular vehicle, and how its market value has been diminished because it has been in an accident. That's another one of the services that I provide as a licensed appraiser, and that's a diminished value claim. Again, if people have questions about my methodology, how I do it, how I can possibly help you out for your situation, I'd be happy to answer any of those questions, give you directions. Again, hop on to our email, mycaronmca@gmail.com. Looking at the stream chat here, Bill with the 56 Bel Air, we got involved in his carburetor conversation. Enjoyed the stream. We'll be back next Wednesday. We older folks need that. Thank you, because I explain things in detail. Well, Bill, like I said before, I'm considering you to be 74 years young. Certainly applaud you for still being in the hobby. and actually, looking for that little bit of extra performance out of your double pumper carburetor. I envy that. And again, I certainly hope that I'm on that level. So love to have you back. Again, send us some pictures of the car. We'd love to see it. What else we got going on in here, Bob?
That's pretty much it, Jim.
Okay. We've had a great time this evening. I'm sure Bob was busy, watching the chat, responding to everyone out there. That's part of the fantastic things that Bob does to help me out on this channel. Could not do it without him. So feel free to give a wave to Bob. I'm sure he appreciates it. So
invite the folks to go visit Jim at Video Call-In Show. He's on right now.
Okay. Our friend Jim Champer has a channel called Video Call-In Show. He broadcasts live for an hour minimum, nightly, 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So he's it's 10:30. He's right in the middle of his broadcast right now. So since we're ending ours, why don't the people watching this hop over to his channel, jump in his chat, say hello.
Hashtag MCA.
And let him know that you hopped over from here. Hashtag MCA. Let him know that you were on this channel and we invited you to swing over to his place. Say hello, get involved, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification for him as well. Let's bring him some additional viewers. Again, he is on 5 nights a week, Monday to Friday. And when I was with him this past weekend, I mentioned to him, would you ever give up Friday and go to Sunday? Swap the 2 days. And it'd be interesting to see what type of reaction. I know I'm busy on Friday nights, and I'm always at my desk on Sunday night. So maybe there's some other people. I can't watch them on Friday. We talked about Carla Sear earlier. Well, she happens to be the reason why I am busy on Friday night. I don't know if she's still watching, but if she is, hello, Carla. But she's why I'm busy on Friday night. But I get back to work on Sunday night. And if Jim was broadcasting on the Video Call-In Show on Sunday night, I would tune in and I put a computer behind me and listen to me because I have to concentrate to my paperwork at the desk. Because again, all the things that I do are all very highly detailed. I need to concentrate. I need to get it done. And if I'm distracted by a monitor over here, I usually end up with mistakes in the paperwork. And I strive for perfection and detail in everything that I do. Sometimes I drive Bob crazy over there. Bob, we got to do this. We got to get this done. We got to make it look this way. We got to do this. We got to do that. Because I'm striving for perfection to make a more professional YouTube broadcast, but also a very professional written report for whatever I do for my customers. I am very detailed, very specific. Even when I cut the grass, I try and make my lines as straight as possible. I alternate my patterns. Sometimes I make it a checkerboard. When I'm planting a garden, I make my rows straight. When I'm buffing and polishing a car, there's not a swirl mark left. If I'm vacuuming the inside, I get inside the air conditioning vents. I open up the glove box and do the edges due inside there. Very detailed, very proper in everything that I do. And my mind is always at 1,000 miles an hour. Hop over to Jim's Video Call-In Show channel. Give him a shout. Tell him you came from here. Subscribe. Hit the bell notification. Most certainly, hit it for us as well if you haven't done so already. Thank you again to everyone that joined us this evening. We truly appreciate you being here. We truly appreciate you joining us the next time. And again, in the meantime, feel free to send us any type of an email with photographs, a request of any type, subject matter, a story. Tell us a story about, a car that a story behind the car. And we're more than happy to bring it on board our channel. So thank you again to everyone that joined us this evening, and hope to see you again next time. Enjoy the rest of your evening.